Now it begins. Yes, it's gonna start all over on needles and pins. I'm so uptight about her. She makes every day a mystery, a true adventure. I should just walk away, but I know that I can't live without her. There she goes, messing with my mind again. Oh no, there she goes, messing with my mind again. Sometimes she does, and then sometimes she don't. Sometimes she will, and then sometimes she won't. Oh, there she goes, she's messing with my mind again.
Welcome to Thematic Nostalgia, and this is show number 50. And this show was inspired by an email conversation I had with an old high school chum, Frank D. So Frank, you're going to know this theme. But this show does have a dual theme. One theme is that every song that I play will be a number one hit from a particular year. And the second theme is for you to figure out, what is that year? Now, if you employ a cheaty web search, you're definitely going to figure out what the theme is. But what will you uncover? You get nothing. But you will suffer the wrath of Father Time. And you do not want to look any older than you already are. Now, these songs will be presented in chronological order for the year in question. Now, I'm excluding one song because we've already played that on another Thematic Nostalgia show, and I'll talk about that when we get there. Now, the first song up was in the number one spot for the beginning of the year, and it stayed there until February the 22nd. Now, of course, this song in the previous year started out as number one, and it kept going into the year that we're going to talk about. Now, this particular song was on the Billboard's chart for 22 weeks, and the song is Ballerina by Vaughn Monroe. And this song was written by Carl Sigman with the lyrics by Bob Russell. Now, the Ballerina song had a lot of notable versions. Buddy Clark had a version, Bing Crosby had a version, Jimmy Dorsey had a version, and probably the biggest one that you may know is the one by Nat King Cole. But Vaughn Monroe's version is the only one to reach number one on Billboard's chart. So here it is.
Dance, ballerina, dance, and do your pirouette in rhythm with your aching heart. Dance, ballerina, dance, you mustn't once forget a dancer has to dance the part. Whirl, ballerina, whirl, just ignore the chair that's empty in the second row. This is your moment, girl. Although he's not out there applauding as you steal the show. Once you said his love must wait its turn, you wanted fame instead. I guess that's your concern. We live and learn, and love is gone, ballerina gone. So on with your career, you can't afford a backward glance. Dance on and on and on. 1,000 people here have come to see the show. As round and round you go, so ballerina dance, dance, dance. love must wait its turn. You wanted fame instead. I guess that's your concern. We live and learn, and love is gone, ballerina gone. So on with your career, you can't afford a backward glance. Dance on and on and on. 1,000 people here have come to see the show. As round and round you go, so ballerina dance. Dance, 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 dance.
The second song, the one that knocked Ballerina off its perch, was a #1 song in its own right for 5 weeks until March the 12th. And the song is by Art Mooney and his orchestra, and they were originally from Detroit, although Art Mooney did later create a swing band in New York City. Now, Art Mooney was most successful in doing sing-along versions of hits from the 1920s, and this next song is a perfect example of that. It may be the best example. Now, the song is I'm Looking Over a Four-Leaf Clover from 1927, which is not the theme here, by the way. It was written by Mort Dixon, and the music was by Harry M. Woods. And this song would remain on the Billboard chart for 4.5 months. Now, the original version of this song back in 1927, there were actually 3, and they were all hits, but none reached #1 on the charts of the day. But they were all very popular songs by artists we no longer remember. And I'll talk about that in our graphics. So let's hear from this mystery year the song I'm Looking Over a Four-Leaf Clover. This third song kept the #1 spot for an impressive 9 weeks until April 23rd of this year. It's a song by Peggy Lee. Now, Peggy Lee was an American jazz and pop singer. She was a composer a songwriter, and an actress, and had a career spanning 7 decades until the year 2000, when she retired at the age of 80. And from her beginnings as a singer on a local radio show to the time she was with the Benny Goodman Big Band, she always created a sophisticated persona. And her number one hit from this year is Mañana, is Soon Enough for Me. In fact, Peggy Lee actually wrote this song with Dave Barber. And if you're a Seinfeld fan, you may remember an episode called The Blood, and Kramer and Newman are listening to this instrumental version by Jackie Davis while they're making sausages in Jerry's apartment. And then again, when they're driving Kramer to the blood bank. Well, here's the song. Mañana is Soon Enough for Me, but this is Peggy Lee's number one version from the mystery year.
The faucet, she is dripping and the fence, she's fallen down. My pocket needs some money so I can go into town. My brother isn't working and my sister doesn't care. The car, she needs a motor so I can go anywhere.
Mañana, mañana, mañana is soon enough for me.
My mother's always working, she's working very hard. But every time she looks for me, I'm sleeping in the yard. My mother thinks I'm lazy, and maybe she is right. I'll go to work mañana, but I gotta sleep tonight.
Mañana, mañana, mañana is soon enough for me.
Oh, once I had some money, but I gave it to my friend. He said he'd pay me double, it was only for a land. But he said a little later that the horse, she was so slow. Why he gave the horse my money is something I don't know.
Mañana, mañana, mañana is soon enough for me.
My brother took a suitcase and he went away to school. My father said he only learned to be a silly fool. My father said that I should learn to make a chili pot. But then I burned the house down, the chili was too hot.
Mañana, mañana, mañana is soon enough for me.
The window, she is broken and the rain is coming in. If someone doesn't fix it, I'll be soaking to my skin. But if we wait a day or two, the rain may go away. And we don't need a window on such a sunny day.
Mañana, mañana, mañana is soon enough for me.
Oba, oba!
Mañana, mañana, mañana is soon enough for me.
Oba, oba!
Even you younger viewers have certainly heard of Bing Crosby. He was a very famous singer and an actor. His trademark bass baritone voice made him one of the best-selling recording artists of the 20th century. And he has over 1/2 billion records in circulation. And our next number one song is from Bing, and it was the number one song for 3 weeks until May the 7th. It's called Now is the Hour. And it's a popular song from the early 20th century, and there is a version going back to 1913. And it's often erroneously described as being a Maori traditional song, and it's usually credited to several people, including Clement Scott Music and Myra Kawa, who did the arrangement and the lyrics along with Dorothy Stewart. Now the tune was published as a piano version as a piece in Australia, known then as the Swiss Cradle Song. So here is Now is the Hour by Bing Crosby.
Now is the hour when we must say goodbye. Soon you'll be sailing far across the sea. While you're away, oh then remember me. When you return, you'll find me waiting here. Sunset glow fades in the west. Night o'er the valley is creeping. Birds cuddle down in their nests. Soon all the world will be sleeping. Now is the hour when we must say goodbye. Soon you'll be sailing far across the sea. While you're away, oh then remember me. When you return, you'll find me waiting here.
Our last song before the mystery year is revealed was a #1 hit for 2 months by Nat King Cole, and it was called Nature Boy. Now, Nat King Cole was an American singer, a jazz pianist, and an actor. He recorded over 100 songs that became hits on the pop charts, and his trio was the model for jazz ensembles that were to follow. Now, Cole acted in movies, he acted on television, and he performed on Broadway. And he was the first African American man to host an American television series. And of course, he was the father of Natalie Cole. Now, this song, Nature Boy, was written by Eden Abez, and it's partially autobiographical for the songwriter. And it's a tribute to the songwriter's mentor, and his name was Bill Pester, who had originally introduced him to the German and Swiss philosophies based on the natural way of farming, natural way of eating, vegetarian diets, no alcoholic beverages, no smoking, no tobacco. And you can see that even back then, people were quite aware of a healthy lifestyle. Unfortunately, Nat King Cole didn't take up the mantra because he was a heavy smoker from what I could tell. And he died way too early in his life, in his 40s. But anyway, he was a great singer, probably one of the greatest of all times, in my humble opinion. So here, from the mystery year, is Nature Boy by Nat King Cole.
There was a boy, a very strange, enchanted boy. They say he wandered very far over land and sea. A little shy and sad of eye, but very wise was he. And then one day, a magic day, he passed my way. And while we spoke of many things, fools and kings, this he said to me: the greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. The greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return.
Ballerina was the #1 song for 10 weeks, from December 13th, 1947, until February the 20th, 1948. And it was during this time that 78-year-old Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated in New Delhi by Nathuram Vinayak Gadse, a Hindu nationalist. I'm Looking Over a Four-Leaf Clover was the #1 song for 3 weeks, from February 21st, 1948 until March the 12th. And it was during this time that the United States Supreme Court ruled that the religious instruction in public schools violates the United States Constitution in McCollum versus the Board of Education. And that's why all the Catholic school students in my elementary school had to be bused to St. Martin of Tours at 2 o'clock once a week for religious instruction. Mañana is Soon Enough for Me was the number one song for 6 weeks, from March 13th, 1948 until April 23rd. And it was during this time, on April the 3rd, that President Harry S. Truman signs the Marshall Plan, which authorizes $5 billion in aid for 16 countries that were devastated during World War II. Now Is the Hour was the number one hit for 2 weeks, from April 24th, 1948 until May 7th. And it was during this time that on May the 4th, Laurence Olivier's film version of Hamlet makes its world premiere in London. Nature Boy was the number one song for 2 weeks, from May the 8th, 1948 until May 21st. And it was during this period of time that Israel declares its independence and David Ben-Gurion becomes the first prime minister, a provisional position that would become formalized on February the 14th, 1949. And the day after, on May the 15th, the 1948 Arab-Israeli War begins, when expeditionary forces from Egypt, Transjordan, Syria, and Iraq invade Israel. The war would last nearly 10 months and result in an Israeli victory. So let's continue with this fabulous year of 1948. And following Nature Boy, Ken Griffin had a number one hit with You Can't Be True, Dear, which was a popular German song, and this song held the number one spot for 6 weeks, remaining on Billboard's Top 100 chart for 23 weeks. In 1948, Ken Griffin recorded this song, which was first released as an instrumental and later with vocalist Jerry Wayne dubbing the lyrics. They were both popular releases by an independent company, Rondo Records, and a number of other versions were also recorded that year.
You can't be through, dear. There's nothing more to say. I trusted you, dear, hoping we'd find a way. Your kisses tell me that you and I are through, but I'll keep loving you, although you can't be true. You can't be true, dear. There's nothing more to say. I trusted you, dear, hoping we'd find a way. Your kisses tell me that you and I are through, but I'll keep loving you, although you can't be true.
Let's continue with the next three number one hits from 1948. First up is Woody Woodpecker by Kay Kaiser and his orchestra, topping the chart July 1948 into the first half of August. That will be followed by Al Trace's recording of You Call Everybody Darling, which first reached Billboard's chart June 18, 1948, and lasted 22 weeks on the chart, and that peaked at number one. And then we'll close this three in a row with Love Somebody by Doris Day and Buddy Clark. Doris Day and Buddy Clark recorded this song on November 21st, 1947, and it was released by Columbia Records. It first reached Billboard's magazine best-selling chart on May 28, 1948, peaking at number 6, according to Wikipedia's Joel Whitburn reference, and it lasted 24 weeks on the chart. However, I am using a different Joel Whitburn reference, which I am physically looking at right now, called Joe Whitburn's Pop Memories 1890 through 1954, the history of American popular music. This is what I'm using. And this source says the Buddy Clark Doris Day version of Love Somebody peaked at number 1 on August 14, 1948, and held that spot for 5 weeks. Now the difference is the Wikipedia source uses one reference, and the Joel Whitburn source that I'm using uses multiple references. And that's what we're going with. So let's hear those three songs. In my book, they're all number one hits.
Oh, that's the Woody Woodpecker song. Yeah, he's a-pecking it all day long. He pecks a few holes in a tree to see if a redwood's really red. And it's nothing to him on the tiniest whim to peck a few holes in your head. Oh, that's the Woody Woodpecker's tune. Makes the other woodpeckers swoon, though it doesn't make sense to the doll and the dance, and the lady woodpeckers long for. That's the Woody Woodpecker song. Woody Woodpecker serenade on the Woodpecker hit parade. Though he can't sing a note, there's a frog in his throat. All his top notes come out blurred. He's the lady's first choice with a laugh in his voice. He gives all his rivals the bird. He'll be settling down someday. He'll be hearing the preacher say, for the rest of your life you'll be Woody and wife, and the choir will sing along with the Woody Woodpecker song.
Darling, oh darling, you call everybody darling.
You call everybody darling, and everybody calls you darling too. You don't mean what you're saying, it's just a game you're playing, but you'll find someone else can play the game as well as you. If you call everybody darling, then love won't come a-knocking at your door. And as the years roll by, you'll sit and wonder why nobody calls you darling anymore. You call everybody darling.
You're so fickle.
And everybody calls you darling too.
You'll be sorry.
You don't mean what you're saying, it's just a game you're playing, but you'll find someone else can play the game as well as you.
If you call everybody darling,
You'll find out.
then love won't come a-knocking at your door.
No more.
And as the years roll by, you'll sit and wonder why nobody calls you darling anymore.
Darling, oh darling, you call everybody darling.
And as the years roll by, you'll sit and wonder why nobody calls you darling anymore.
Love somebody, yes I do. Love somebody, yes I do. Love somebody, yes I do. I love somebody, but I won't say who. Handsome say he's 6 feet tall, and his picture's on my wall. Love to be his baby doll. If he kissed me, I wouldn't mind at all.
I love somebody, yes I do. Love somebody, yes I do. Love somebody, yes I do. Love somebody, but I won't say who. Don't know why she acts so shy. She ought to know I wouldn't dream of even hurting a fly. Hope she doesn't pass me by, 'cause if she did, I'd die. I know I'd die. I love somebody, yes I do. Love somebody, yes I do. Love somebody, yes I do. Love somebody, but I won't say who.
He's big and strong,
Would you like to feel my muscle?
bold and gay.
I never once lost a tussle.
At the moment, he's not very far away.
Why don't you say who? Say already.
I'd want to marry him today.
But you don't say who.
That I cannot do.
Happen to be me.
Possibility.
Won't you tell me who you love?
Love somebody.
Tell me true.
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do.
Love somebody.
I do too.
And I do.
Maybe me.
Love somebody.
I hope it's me.
Yes, I do.
Love somebody, but I won't tell who. Come on and confess.
Why don't don't you try and guess.
Do tell, let's tell.
You promise not to breathe a word?
Doris, don't be absurd.
Strictly entre nous?
We too.
Well,
Confidentially,
between you and me,
confidentially, I
love somebody.
I've got news for you.
Love somebody.
I feel that way too.
Love somebody.
Glad it's true.
That somebody that I love is you.
It's time to close out 1948 with the last 3 number 1 hits from this year. Next up is a big band instrumental that spent 6 weeks at number 1. You may not have known the name of this song, but I'd bet the tune is very familiar to you. After that left the number 1 spot, in came Margaret Whiting's song, A Tree in the Meadow. And that song spent 1 month at number 1 beginning on October the 9th, 1948. And probably the biggest hit of all from that year was Buttons and Bows by Dinah Shore. And this song was number 1 from November the 6th all the way up to Christmas Eve, 1948. But Thematic Nostalgia already featured Buttons and Bows in Thematic Nostalgia show number 36. And if you haven't seen that show, check it out and guess that theme, which is not songs from 1948. And finally, we closed the show with Spike Jones, who actually made an appearance on Thematic Nostalgia show number 8 with a different song than the one we are using in this show. This song hit number 1 on Christmas Day, 1948, and spent 3 weeks on the chart into 1949, and it's called All I Want for Christmas Is My 2 Front Teeth. Thanks for watching Thematic Nostalgia show number 50. And please, y'all come back now, you hear? And subscribe and share with your friends. Let's keep this old music alive.
tree in the meadow with a stream drifting by, and carved upon that tree I see, I love you till I die. I shall always remember the love in your eye, the day you carved upon that tree, I love you till I die. But further on down Lover's Lane, a silhouette I see. I know you're kissing someone else, I wish that it were me. By the tree in the meadow, my thoughts always lie, and wherever you go, you'll always know I love you till I die. By that tree in the meadow, my thoughts always lie, and wherever you go, you'll always know I love you till I die.
East is east and west is west, and the wrong one I have chose. Let's go where I'll keep on wearing those frills and flowers and buttons and bows, rings and things and buttons and bows.
Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. Suddenly I heard a strange noise down below, so in my flannel pajamas I went tippy-toe. I could see old St. Nick from the spot where I stood, so I slid down the banister just as fast as I could. All I want for Christmas is my two front teeth, my two front teeth. See my two front teeth. Gee, if I could only have my two front teeth, then I could wish you Merry Christmas. It seems so long since I could say Sister Susie sitting on a thistle. Every time I try to speak, all I do is whistle. All I want for Christmas is my two front teeth, my two front teeth. See my two front teeth. Gee, if I could only have my two front teeth, then I could wish you Merry Christmas. toys and Polish reindeer. They used to bring me lots of toys and candy. Gee, but now when I go out and call Dancer, Prancer, Donner, and Blitzer, none of them can understand me. All I want for Christmas is my two front teeth. My two front teeth. See my two front teeth? All I want for Christmas is my two front teeth. So I can wish you Merry Christmas. 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 Oh, for goodness sakes. Happy New Year!
In parting, let me tell you, and I swear that I'm sincere, I'd give the world and all I own if I could keep you here. And have I never told you? Can you please believe my claim? Through it all I've loved you just the same.